and I think you've all seen the results of when we've been running in heavy rain, that the circuit in some places is not safe because of the way the water does not drain from the surface. We did everything we possibly could to run an event today. Obviously, the very last thing any of us wants to do is to cancel an event. However, safety remains a priority. So just to briefly describe that, we attempted to start the race this morning. It was obvious that track conditions weren't safe. After that, in consultation with the riders, we made a start delay to discuss the situation further. When it was obvious that the track condition was not improving, even when the rain abated a little, the track surface was still too wet. We discussed various options, including running tomorrow. That was discussed with the teams and with the circuit, the promoter, the organisers. It was concluded that was not a possibility, and so the other possibility that the circuit requested, that we agreed with, was to delay today as much as possible until such time as the conditions were safe. We've reached the point where, even though the rain is getting less, the circuit is still not in a condition that we could safely run races. So we've taken the very difficult, regrettable decision to cancel. So.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have questions from the floor, please?
Mike, can we say that today happened because of the track surface? Because we've raced here before in similar conditions with no major problems.
Yep. We've had a number of years' experience here in very wet conditions recently with the old surface, and have been able to run races. This year with the new surface is the first time we've encountered quite so much standing water in critical places on the track. So yes, it's a direct result of the track surface. I must say, from the circuit point of view, the staff have done an unbelievable effort over the whole weekend, not just today, but an enormous effort to try and make the track safe. And until the last minute they were still working, but unfortunately we couldn't battle nature.
What discussions are you having now with Silverstone to? What discussions are you now having with Silverstone to obviously stop this from happening again next year? Because presumably, if it is Britain, we do have weather like this. If this happens again, surely Silverstone can't continue to host a MotoGP event.
We feel the same way. We obviously want to have a British Grand Prix. It's the climate of the area means that we've got to expect rain, and the surface has to be able to handle it. As I say, they've done an enormous job over this weekend to try and improve things, which they have. It just the nature of the surface means that we've reached this point. That's actually your main question is a question for Franco, who's in charge of track homologation, and therefore what improvements need to be made for next year. And I'm sure that'll be a discussion, but it'll be taking place from now.
Yes, we had discussed yesterday about the improvements of the track, of the asphalt for sure, because they have to renew. They are looking for an investigation that will take around 6 weeks to let us know which really was the problem of this kind of a situation. So we will wait this time to know exactly which was the reason of the problem. But for sure they will do a new asphalt.
Question for Franco Uncini. If I remember well, in 1980 you have done a race under heavy wet condition here in Silverstone. May you compare that situation with the actual one?
At that time does not exist, first of all, the Safety Commission. So we've been not considered as a voice in the organization. So now, luckily, the Safety Commission has the possibility to inform us about the situation, and we accepted the decision that has been done all together in Safety Commission. So I think that was the...
it was a very, very dangerous condition. If you come back in time...
Paolo, you cannot compare the situation today with the 1980, because 1980 was not only this the problem was also the circuit, the problem was everything. So we did a big step from that time that you cannot compare. You cannot compare.
Mike, you said that the teams in the circuit that decided it wasn't possible to race on Monday. What were the reasons for that decision to be taken?
I'm involved in only part of that discussion in my role as operational things that happen from race control and on track. A certain amount of that discussion is commercial as well, and things that honestly I know nothing about, as in getting people in and out and that sort of thing. So the discussion on my side centred on operational things. To a large extent it may have been possible, but there were other factors that were more commercial that made the decision no. So.
Sorry if you've already answered this, but obviously the MotoGP race couldn't go ahead. Did you think of running the Moto2 or Moto3, or was that also apparently out of the question, and why?
If from our safety commission, which is we take a lot of advice from and have improved things a great deal. If the safety commission conclusion is that the track is unsafe, it's unsafe for everybody. So I think it's irresponsible of us to think that we could not run a MotoGP race and then send Moto3 out for a race. If the track is unsafe, it's for everyone.
Did you, sorry about this, but did you consult any Moto3 teams about this?
The teams were consulted in the initial process because regarding how we were going to handle today, that all the teams are consulted. The Safety Commission, actually I'll have to defer to my Italian colleagues because they were directly in the Safety Commission. I'm not sure if there's Moto2 or Moto3 riders. I think not.
Today is not any rider of Moto2 or Moto3, but we are talking also with some team manager of Moto2 or Moto3, and when we keep decision to stopping a strong decision like that, we're thinking about safety. When we're thinking about safety, it's mean Moto2 or Moto3, same.
A question for Franco Uncini. First of all, you homologated this circuit. You came here, I think, twice. What dates did you come, and was it dry? Did you see the track when it was wet at all?
Yes, I came at the beginning when was laid down the new asphalt. That was end of February, and at the time I did the inspection, and the tarmac looks very good in matter of bumps and connection and also grip. In fact, it was confirmed by Karl Kraschoff that did the test by bike 1 month later, and he confirmed that also the two places that I say that was a little bumpy, and the circuit react and then adjust these two bumps. In fact, he said that it was really perfect at that time, but then slowly we discovered right now, or we discovered during the Formula One, because it was during the Formula One that we discovered that the circuit was bumpy. So it was a degree from March, let me say, to July. That was the situation of the tarmac that I don't know what's happened. They will make a deep study in these 6 weeks to see what is the reason of this kind of, because honestly, February and March, it was good.
Question to Mike, right in front of you. At one point during the weekend, after you seen on Saturday that things were getting complicated, did you consider skipping the warm-up and racing very early in the morning, or did the team refuse that because they needed the warm-up?
All of those possibilities were discussed. Looking at the weather forecast, the idea was earlier the better. And we discussed with the teams and agreed on the time to start. We discussed about earlier starts. The teams, but more specifically the organisers, need a certain amount of time to get the people into the circuit in the morning, and that's also a consideration. We have to consider the promoters' needs as well. And the compromise, the times that were finally agreed were agreed after consultation with all the teams and with the promoter.
I have two questions here, Mike, on your left. Mike, who is going to run this investigation, the circuit or an independent company?
I'm sorry, Frank, that's a question for Franco. The investigation of the asphalt.
No, there is not really an investigation, or a deep investigation. We do a test using a car, sometimes the bike, and then we check if the asphalt is in good condition or not. For sure, we cannot do this kind of deep investigation because it's up to the circuit and to the manufacturer of the tarmac that they must do a proper asphalt. This is our request. That we request only to have a good asphalt in good condition. That is up to the circuit to do it in a good manner. In fact, in so many years, this is the first time that we have such a big problem.
Hello? Yes, Franco, I think my English is not good enough. I was asking, sorry, who is doing the investigation and the research to see what is happening? If it's a private company or it's the circuit itself?
The circuit that must do that investigation, or the circuit that must have the company that make the asphalt in proper manner. I mean, it's up to the circuit.
Don't you think that a private or a company not involved in this situation should do this work?
This is something that maybe after this experience we can evaluate, we can study, we can see, because now we got an experience and then we see if it's the case or not to do, because honestly, this is the first time, and imagine how many asphalt they did during the past 20 seasons, and never happened something like this. So is the case or not, we will study and we will see if it's the case or not.
Hello, yes, the second question is 30 days ago, more or less 1 month, we heard Lewis Hamilton talking about how bad the circuit was. Did you have any contact with the circuit after these quotes?
Yes, I did, and they tried to solve some small problems, but honestly it was so big that it was impossible to do. For sure that the dream was to have a completely new asphalt, but there was no time, no possibility to do a new asphalt in between the Formula One Grand Prix and our Grand Prix.
Another one for you, Mike. Are the MotoGP riders involved also in the decision? Did they have to vote, or do you just take their opinion and then you decide? How does it work in this case?
I'm not actually in the Safety Commission, so that's a question for Loris, but in the end I get from Loris and Franco the decision of the Safety Commission and take that into account, but how the decisions arrive?
Well, you know, we do a meeting today for understand the idea of the rider, and the rider see already this morning when we try to start the race the first time, and he say the standing water we have on the track is a lot everywhere. This is why we postpone the race. And me and Franco, we make every half hour a lot of laps for check the situation is better. And the situation always, also with very little rain, is not improved. And this is why we talking with the rider, and all rider he decide, he say is for sure it's not the right time to do the race today, because also with really small amount of rain, the track condition is really dangerous, you know, especially for aquaplaning. And on the straight we have a lot of standing water. This is why we decide all together, but especially it's coming from rider decision. He say the track is unsafe for the surface problem, and we decide to don't do it. Yeah.
A question for maybe for Mike or for Franco, I'm not sure. Will you demand that we have a test here next year before coming back to Silverstone, maybe even with artificial wet conditions like we had at Qatar this year?
We spoke about this yesterday, and the specific problem here is standing water after either continuous rain, so it can be like normal rain but continuous like we had today, or the very heavy short burst of rain that we had on Saturday. yes, we would love to have a test in those conditions before we race here. The problem is to actually technically to replicate those conditions. We can't schedule a test hoping it's going to rain. We have to be sure that we've got something to test. So the answer is yes, we'd love to do that. We have to find a way to technically do that. And after our experience in Qatar with the wet test there, it's an enormous exercise to wet a track sufficiently to get real data. It's something we can work on, and perhaps Franco could discuss this with the circuit. But the answer is yes, we'd like to, but we need to find a way how.
Sorry, another question for Franco. Was the track wet? Did you see the track when you were homologating it? Did you see it in the rain, or was it always dry when you were homologating it? So, and how do you assess how a track will respond when it rains?
Yeah, no, there is no system now to check the track on wet. We don't use to check the track on wet. We used to check the track on dry. We presume that on wet it should be okay with the correct drainage, with the correct drainage on the side and the inclination of the track everywhere. So we only trust the company that make the asphalt, and we trust the circuit. We just check that it's not bumpy, that is a good grip, that is not slippery, so and that it's well done, the asphalt, that there is no gap in between the curbs and the asphalt. So we check all these particulars, but we cannot check in wet, because an example on wet, how much is the wet? I mean, how we consider that could be okay or not, and which is the system to check. Effectively, the only system should be with the MotoGP bike on the completely wet track. Quite impossible.
Franco, here on your left. Sorry, me again. Since February, when they threw the new asphalt, I imagine it has rained here some day or more than one day. And imagine also that the track knew the condition that appears when it rains. Do you feel that you have not been informed about what could happen if it rained? Because for sure it has not been the first rain since February here.
The track maybe has some experience of rain already this year.
Okay, sorry. Not that I know. We don't know anything. I don't know if they already checked during the time, during when it's been done in February up to now on wet or not. They did not inform us about anything, so we don't know any official from them.
Just to back that up, with the local officials here, the clerk of the course runs other events here, and as you saw in, I think, our Moto2 free practice where there was rain and it was a normal session, it depends entirely on the rain, how consistent and how long and how heavy it is. So when we just talked about what they've done in the past, he said, yeah, you know, we've had some wet events here with no particular drama. What we've discovered this time around is, unlike more or less every other circuit we go to, that it seems that the water does not drain away from the surface, it just builds up. So if you've had relatively light rain for a long time, you get surface water. If you have at the beginning, say the first 2 hours, it's fine, and after that it just gets worse and worse. It's a unique situation. We've never had to cancel a race for this, so it's unique.
A question for Loris. Sorry, I didn't understand well. All the riders of MotoGP were in the safety commission now, or some riders? How many riders?
No, well, nearly everybody. We missed a couple rider, just a couple rider, you know. But the decision is nearly unanimous. The decision from the rider to say it's unsafety condition to do the race. But it's sure we say to everybody to come in. This is sure. And the couple rider don't come because it's decision to don't come. And we listen, the decision of all riders is there, and all riders have nearly the same decision to stopping.
Sorry, Loris, but I just spoke to Dovi. he said he was not informed that there was this meeting, and he's a little bit not angry, but a little bit doubtful how this was organized.
For sure, we inform everybody because we inform the team manager, and Lorenzo is there. I don't know why I don't go personally to inform him. This is for sure. I don't know why Andrea is not there, but I'm so sorry for that. But for sure, our intention is to understand and to listen all opinion from all riders for understand. Because from our side, like always, the safety is the most important thing. And like we see today, we postpone to do the race, but we never find the right solution and the right condition to do. And the rider decide altogether to stopping.
I'm not sure who this question should be for either for Mike or for Loris. There was a BSB race here earlier this year where I think there were a lot of crashes, only I think 7. Oh, was it not this year? Oh, apologies, I take my question back, apologies.
A question for Loris. You said almost all riders were unanimous in the agreement. Were there any riders wanting to race?
Well, I say it's normally, like I said before, is everybody is nearly have the same opinion. Someone say maybe the condition is not really bad. We have to check. But overall, always, you know, we try to follow the majority, and the majority of riders say, for sure, for us it's too dangerous to go on the track with 270 horsepower on the bike, especially because we have a lot of, you know, spinning on the straight. This is really dangerous, and we have a lot of river on the track. And in the end, the decision is that one.
Because Ducati, who just listened to what we said that Tardozzi was not informed that there was this meeting.
Okay, I don't know why Jorge is there. You know, I don't know who say to him. I say already, it's not my job to inform the rider on the team, but I am sure somebody informed.
Okay, thank you so much.